Hi, welcome to the Systemlink video, and here we are going to see what are all the basic apps that you would need to get started with Systemlink. The Systemlink from NI works with in place of many apps. You need many apps in place to get the Systemlink working, and some of the apps are: you need NI package manager, you need NI web server configuration, you need NI Systemlink server configuration, Systemlink client, and Systemlink web application. So how do you get these components in first place? You would have the NI package manager, which you can download from the Google. And once you have the NI package manager downloaded, and when you have it opened, you will be able to browse through the various products from National Instruments. And here you can search for the Systemlink component, and that will bring you various Systemlink tools that you can install. And what I have installed now is the Systemlink. So that installs the Systemlink server as well as the web server if at all it is not installed, and other relevant Systemlink components. Ensure that you install all the components whichever is listed when you install this. For a demonstration, I'm going to show the installation window again. Once the install is selected, it will connect to the NI web and get the relevant components. And once you get all those components, the listed, usually these add-ons would be unchecked and you would not need that in many places for all the things. But to get started, I would recommend you to install all those components so that you will be able to run the Systemlink without any hiccups in future. By default, Systemlink server and Systemlink client will be checked. Along with that, do install the configuration Jupyter Notebook, OPC, test module, asset module, toolkit, LabVIEW toolkits if you have LabVIEW, and Systemlink TDM toolkits and add-ons. Alright, since I have them all installed, I don't need to install that again. Once this is installed, this will ideally install server as well as the client and also the other tools. So with this, you would be able to have both Systemlink client and Systemlink server and all other tools available installed on your machine. After it is installed, you will be able to find them in your start menu, and when you go to your Systemlink or NI folder, usually I search for Systemlink and it will find the various tools from this start menu. My Systemlink server configuration, Systemlink client, Systemlink web application, so on and so forth. As well as if at all web server is not configured, you would need to configure it, and for that first you would need to get it installed. I believe when you install Systemlink, and if you don't have the web server, it will install by default. Reason being, Systemlink can run only with the NI web server. It runs on the NI web server, and if it is not there, it is one of the important dependencies and it should install along with your Systemlink installation from NI package manager. Once you have them, the first thing to get started with the Systemlink is to configure your web server configuration. So your web server configuration, once you open it up, you will have the window like this, and in the web server configuration, by default, if you are in the first time, you will get to see this screen where it will walk you through configuring your server for the first time. If it is your first local access, that means you're not exposing your server to the outside world, you can access or you can deploy something, a very basic server like a simple local access. And when you advance with all the security needs, then you will be able to choose any of the different things here. You may walk you through by clicking on the next on this, and finally once you have configured, you will land up in the window like this, and in this window you will be able to see where your NI web server is running. At the moment I have it a secured local host, and so the link is like this. To walk you through a few of the tabs here in the NI web server configuration, you will be able to allow the different roles and permissions for the different users. For example, I have a user admin who has the admin access, as well as a window user who is a Veluman, as also an admin user. Yes, you know, admin has the more privileges, the top level privileges than any other users. And you may also be able to add many different users and roles for different people. NI web server will also be able to connect with your Windows users, and you will be able to browse from the directory, the user group directory of the Windows straight away. Then you have the authentication tab, where you can configure the authentication through the different providers. To make it simple, here it is configured for basic local authentication. Some of the other examples of the authentications are LDAP server or OpenID Connect or your Windows accounts. And then there is a tab for the HTTPS, which is a secured HTTP connection, which you can establish. If you have the certificates as signed certificates for your server, you can install them here, or you can generate a NI generated local certificate, which many of the clients may not trust the self-signed certificates, but to get started this should be good enough to start with the secure connection. And then the remote connections, you can define how your clients will be connecting to the web server through this remote connections. You can select the various different IP addresses or the ports or the addresses through which the NI-Systemlink will be connected. And last but not least, you can control your server. You can stop or restart the server as and when you wish. You might need to do this whenever you do a change in your web server. It will ask you to apply and restart. And that's the top level app which you would need to get started with the Systemlink server as well as the client. And then what I have here is the Systemlink server configuration and Systemlink client. Ideally, in a real world situation, you will have only the server on one of your machine, and NI recommends a very high spec for the NI's Systemlink server, mainly because of the reason that it will handle a lot of data. And all your clients or the small nodes or your different manufacturing or production or test engineering machines can have the clients to send the data to the Systemlink server. And last but not least, we have the web application, which is nothing but an URL to your web URL to your Systemlink server. So let's have a look at the Systemlink server here. When we have a look at the Systemlink server, you will be presented with this window, and ideally in this window you could do very least. You cannot do much except few things like restarting the Systemlink server itself. So you have the various tick marks in your Systemlink tabs, and each of this tick mark indicates you that the server is running fine. You may be able to check over all these different options for generating the logs in the troubleshooting, or in the Systemlink message bus you can enable the messaging protocol in the Systemlink, which we will see later. And then we have web server configuration. You can configure which web server is being configured. And finally, you have the Systemlink services or service manager, which lists various services that runs under Systemlink. When you have a look in here, you might find nearly 66 different services that runs in here, and each of these services are contributing in one or other way to run the server. It's very likely that if you find any one of this service is not yet started or waiting to start or stopped for some errors or something, your Systemlink client will not be able to communicate properly to your server. So it's very vital that all of these services are running without any issues. Once you have the Systemlink server configuration running fine, then you are good to go with the client or your web application. The client is just another node, another PC, or another PXI running on the different lines of your production environment or manufacturing environment, and that will help you to send the data from those different machines to your server. And web application in the other side helps you to navigate through the various data on the server and understand it. So let's go through them one by one. So NI-Systemlink client, when you have that, you will find it something like this, and you may find that this is the old IP address that I have used to connect. Now I have changed to the local host, so when I change it to local host, it will ask me to apply and connect. You may find in this window the host name, the model name of your PC, and specifically the minion ID, which is the very unique ID reference that your server is going to refer to all the different data and tags and everything that comes from this client. Then you have the local log state and connection status. So let's try to apply again. By default, you would be seeing that do not connect to the Systemlink server. You would need to turn it to connect to Systemlink server. Enter your address at which the web server is running. If you remember, going back to your summary, you will find that it is on the HTTPS localhost, and you may find that I have not entered the HTTPS here for the reason that when I do this, it is not going to allow me and say that it's an invalid hostname or IP address. Reason being that the Systemlink client connects to the server via a special protocol, which is a SALT protocol. The SALT protocol uses a port number 4505 and 4506 to connect to the server. When you do this HTTPS, you are enforcing to use a specific protocol, which is HTTPS protocol, and that is on the 443 port, what you see here, which is not a SALT. For that reason, the client needs only the IP address or the address of the server, and it will add the protocol around it to connect to it. When I click apply, now what is going to happen is it is going to restart the Systemlink client, and it will attempt to connect. It will take a while to connect. It needs a lot of handshaking with the server to connect. Just be remembered that I have both server and the client on the same machine at this moment, and so I am using the local host. So once that gets connected, which will happen in a while, you will be able to see from the web application. As I said, web application is nothing but just a web port to connect to your Systemlink server. So you will find that when you open that, it will open up a simple browser, here in my case Microsoft Edge, and it will connect to the local host. Since on the local host NI web server is hosted and I have the Systemlink client running on it, it directly takes me to the Systemlink login page. Here I may use the admin user, the role whichever I have configured back in my web server roles. I may use that and log into that. So I'm going to use the admin username and its password, which I have configured to log into the Systemlink server. And now once I log into the Systemlink server, I will be able to see the pending items on the system management to connect. When I go to the pending items, I will be seeing the same minion ID that was used in the Systemlink client shows up here. Based on this authentication, I can approve it and choose the workspace. By default, we can choose the default workspace and approve that to get it listed. See how the clients are connected to this. You may notice that I have the Systemlink client is connected already to this, but it has some notification which is not activated, and so when I go back to the client, I would see it's fine here, it's connected here. But still, sometimes it tells like this, not activated. You can activate it by going into the system and checking on these three little dots, sandwich buttons, and activate it. When you do that, it will get activated and you will be able to see the data from the machine. By default, to get started, the Systemlink provides the basic data like your CPU and disk and memory usage. As you can see, I am using a huge lot of CPU and memory because I am running server, recording video, and a lot of things happening here. Alright, and on top of that, when you click on this button, you will find that the navigation pane, which I can pin now to see for all the time, and here you will find now all the different applications available from the Systemlink server that I can make use of. If we had installed only little items without those add-ons from the Systemlink installation, we may not see all of them here. So that's how you will get the Systemlink server installed, get the Systemlink client connected, and you will get the Systemlink running with this basic data on the Systemlink dashboard. Hope you have received a useful information from this video. For any more information, feel free to contact